What's going on, guys? It's the Money Talk Show with Dane, where we talk about all sorts of interesting topics having to do with money, specifically real estate and crypto here. So, if those are topics that are interesting to you, make sure you subscribe to the channel as you like the videos. We appreciate all your help. Pumped to have you here today. We're doing our best to be the bridge between entrepreneurs, real estate investors, and the crypto world. It's a remarkable opportunity, the biggest opportunity over the next few years, and it's not even close. If you can get into crypto, get in it the right way, figure out the right projects and the right approach, and we couldn't be more excited about the opportunity. So, with that, Corey, take it away.
Yeah, man. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there with the opportunities at its prime, man. And one of my missions is, I was thinking about this last night, is to bring a minimum of 100 people along for this ride with us to change the trajectory of their financial life and maybe even their family's financial life. And I feel like, just like you do, that this could be and will be the opportunity that we have to do that with and to bring as many people along as we possibly can. Like I said, I want at least 100. If we can do up to 500, that'd be great. And just really capitalize on this opportunity. It could be an amazing opportunity. I mean, we're talking about 100x potential, 1000x potential, and maybe even a 10,000x potential in the right projects. And it could just be absolutely explosive, guys. So we're at the right place, right time right now. And I'm just super excited, man. And Hex is pumping today, which is so cool.
Feels so good to see green candles, man. Before we get into today's show, though, I'm going to make sure I want to mention our banner. I'm going to put it here at the bottom of the show. If you guys want to come and check out Community, it's grown like crazy. We're up over 60 members now, and once again, I don't know a better group where once again there's a bridge between entrepreneurs and crypto guys. We're in a ton of different groups ourselves, massive value in different groups. It's just a matter of figuring out what you're after and how you want to participate. All the other groups that we're a part of have been excellent in their own rights, but I feel like we have a unique perspective to bring, a unique bridge and a unique group that I don't see anywhere else. So if you feel like you're looking for something like that, you want to interact with other entrepreneurs, you can figure out how to set yourself up to be potentially, well, you can figure out potential pathways of financial freedom. Make sure that you book a call here. We'd love to chat with you. No pressure if it's not for you. Full disclosure, it's not for everybody. We vet everybody that we let into the group very heavily so we can keep the group at a very high level. But if you feel like you're that type of person, then schedule a call. We'd love to chat with you.
Yeah, I mean, we have like apartment syndicators in there. We have, land developers in there. Obviously, we got your typical fix and flippers, wholesalers in this group, all looking to have some exposure in the crypto space the right way. And what's going to be so much fun, and I'm looking forward to, is in 25 when we're starting to off ramp some of these amazing gains that we're going to experience. Well, what are you going to do with that money? You put it in the bank. It just sits there and it loses value because the Fed will be printing more money and it'll be insane with the inflation amount that we'll be experiencing again, because that works like clockwork.
Right.
But what you could do is you could park it, for example, into a big multifamily unit, and the syndicator who's the operator, you're not the operator, and you can park it with that guy because he's good at that. And then you got all the benefits of owning that real estate. And that's a whole nother show in itself. You got cost seg, you got the depreciation, everything that goes into owning real estate. That's amazing. And then you turn that money into cash flow while we're waiting for the next bear market again. And then you can rinse and repeat this process. And that's what I think, I know you do too, why crypto and real estate can really be an amazing marriage together. And I think our group does kind of bring that to the table, which is amazing.
Absolutely. There is no better way to legally avoid paying taxes than participating in real estate because of the depreciation. There is nothing like it. And it doesn't need to be the whole of your strategy, but I think that it makes a ton of sense to at least have it be part of your strategy. And you can come and chat with us and we can help you figure out if it makes sense.
Yeah, he's like anything else. You diversify, you sprinkle in some of the Papa Boner strategy, and then you sprinkle in some real estate and whatever else, you might be figuring out there, maybe some Roth IRAs, stuff like that. You can do. There's so many different vehicles and tools you can use to help with this, wealth preservation. Remember, crypto is used for wealth creation. Now we're going to preserve that wealth once we get to the top of the bull market. So a lot of fun.
Well, thanks for jumping in, you guys that are here. Love to know where you're tuning in from. Go ahead and comment that below if you haven't already. Ruben's on. What's up, Ruben?
What up, bro?
Jen Hex is on. Good morning. Really digging your
morning.
streams. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate the feedback. Jeremy's in. What's up, Jeremy? Morning, guys.
Morning.
Red Squirrel. Red Squirrel's been one of our more recent guys that's on just about every stream. So appreciate you guys being on here. Today will be fun. I'd love to hear it in the comments below. Do you guys think that Richard Heart missed the bottom call this time around? That's what we're going to talk about today. So comment below. Do you think you missed it? You can just put missed, or you could put waiting for 11K Bitcoin. That would be fascinating to see what the group thinks. We got Crypto Freedoming. Good morning, gentlemen. Generational wealth incoming, patience. Absolutely. Right place, right freaking time. Couldn't be more excited about all that.
Yeah, he's got 3 beautiful assets in there. Hex, Pulse X, and Pulse. So those 3 right there, man. Man, super bullish. So
very bullish. Let's start with you today, Corey. So do you feel like Richard missed the Bitcoin bottom call, 11K and pray?
I felt like we were still going to hit the 11K benchmark, up until recently. I'm starting to get a feeling that the crypto space is kind of decoupling. It's really weird from the legacy space. Now, if you remember, this is why Bitcoin was invented back in 2009, was to avoid the stupid monetary policy that our government has into where you have a printing of inflation and then trying to make us pay the price or the bill, if you will, when they printed too much money and handed it out to their friends. And so Bitcoin was created by Satoshi Nakamoto to try to avoid this. And so the ideology that it was following the legacy markets there for a while was very interesting, because that's not why it was created. It was created to avoid this. And then now we're seeing a bit of a decoupling, because we're not seeing a real massive rally in the legacy world. In fact, some stocks are getting hammered pretty hard right now. And so it's just funny to see Bitcoin. We just hit 25K this morning. I'm looking at the chart right now. Well, it just jumped back down again. That's 24,733. It was a little over 25 this morning. And so it's interesting to see, because we touched down the 15K, and I don't know, man, anymore. I'm starting to get in the sense maybe we did bottom at that 15K mark, because we're what are we at right now? We're in mid-February. And so I still think there's gonna be a lot of volatility ahead of us. Don't get me wrong. This is not, we're not in the clear yet, but it's starting to show that we just got a lot of signs, man, of we've kind of stabled out a little bit. I don't know. It's interesting, but there's a video, and I don't know if you saw it, Dane, by, what's his name? My friend Sammy. I really like that guy. He has some amazing content, and he has been posting for the last maybe 2 months that he feel like we bottomed at that 15K. He's been on it, and they're saying, hey, you guys are missing the opportunity. You're missing the boat. This is kind of, we've already hit that bottom. Hex hit its bottom at the 1.7 cent. And that very well could be true. Don't know. It's very interesting. I'm sure glad I've been DCAing like we preach. We always preach DCA. This is why, because we just don't know the answer. And so he had a video where he had, I remember Richard Heart was talking in an interview on one of these shows he did, that he talked about, it was only for a split second, because he always has been saying 11K and pray, but he had one interview where he's like, hey, maybe Bitcoin hits only 15K and then it starts going back up because the Fed printed so much money into the economy that they're unable to pull out all that liquidity. And so it's just, kind of floats Bitcoin above that, 85% drop that we traditionally have every single time. And also another thing to consider is maybe the cryptocurrency markets are getting a little bit more mature. What do I mean by that? Well, in the beginning, it's extremely highly volatile because we're such a infant market, right? It's going to go all. That's why you have your 97% dips, 98% dips. But as we're kind of maturing along here, and people are realizing that crypto's not going anywhere, crypto's not a scam, it's not a Ponzi. They're finding more faith inside this asset class. Well, they're not selling off their assets to zero anymore, and we're kind of stabilizing out. And we saw this on the last Bitcoin bull market. We didn't really get a blow off top. We hit a top, we came down, I think we topped out like a 50, what was it, 65, I can't remember, but we came down to 30, and then we came back out, but it hit that 67, and then we started going down. It was very it wasn't like our normal blow off top and then straight down to the right. So it was very interesting how it played out, and maybe this time the bottom will play out the same, where we don't have this hard, V-shape capitulation type candle, and then it kind of runs sideways for a while. I don't know. Maybe we just kind of stable at that 15K was where it kind of hit. It was kind of a U-shape recovery. It was because of FTX, which was a pretty catastrophic event. If you look at it, $20 billion being lost. That's a lot of faith being lost in the marketplace, if you ask me. So I don't know, man. That's kind of my thought. I'm starting to lean towards the ideology that maybe we have bottomed. And I'm not going to go all in on that idea by any stretch of the measure, because there could be a Lehman Brothers event that happens a month from now that we don't foresee, a black swan, if you will, that would force that market down to the 9 to 11K range. But I'm starting to get the idea that maybe we're not going to do that. But it'd be cool. Are you able to pull up that video too with Richard Hart talking?
Yeah, let me see that if I can find that before I do though. So to your point, you can see here in these last couple of cycles, you can see the blow off top where it just poof. You see it here, same thing, poof.
Really aggressive, a lot of liquidity coming into the market, pushing it up, and then a massive sell-off. I mean, that's what we call exit liquidity. You have the institutions driving up the market for one last push because they want to get people to FOMO in. People FOMO in, buying the top. I think we've all done it. You FOMO in, buying the top, and then what does the institutional money do? Boom, dump on your head, and you're now your exit liquidity. And that's the start of the bear market. And they've already foresee it ahead of the time. But yeah, it's interesting. This is a good chart.
And it is to your point. We see over here, we didn't see a blow off top on Bitcoin like we have before. And credit where credit is due. This is an excellent video. These guys charting crypto. It's a little bit older, and they go through and speculate that we see the bottom in November. Now they think, same as Richard, that it should come down to about 11K to be able to match past cycles.
It's what makes sense, right? Because history rhymes, but it doesn't repeat. That's the saying. History never repeats, but it often rhymes. And so I don't know, but history's allowed, new events are allowed to change, right? With markets and stuff. So it's hard to say, man. Yeah.
Well, and without seeing a blow off top this time around, maybe you don't see it as low of lows.
Are they putting it in November of this year, Dane? Is that what?
No, it was November of 22. So this video is a little bit older. It was shot in 2022. Oh. And so they were speculating, and like many people, right, are thinking that we saw the bottom. I think Bitcoin didn't it hit the 15K in November last year?
It's about right. Yeah, that's about right. And that's, if you watch some of other old Richard Hart videos, I remember when I was, I think, at the PulseCon, he did a live, and he's like, hey, Pulse Chain's not ready yet, but what you should be excited about is November. He even said it. November is 1 year from our last top, and that's usually where we bottom. So you should be excited because we're coming up on November. He was insinuating that we should be near the bottom, and he had mentioned that in the PulseCon conference, and that's why I thought, like, at the moment, I was like, oh, maybe he'll launch Pulse Chain in November because that's the bottom. But that's when he started, rewriting the code for ETH 2.0, which is, but yeah, interesting. So I don't know anymore, man.
Yeah, I don't know either. I do think it's interesting. There's more and more sentiment where people are saying that they think that we've bottomed already. And to your credit, we certainly could see more downside. There's no guarantees of anything until, we start getting closer. Well, there's no guarantees, period. But once we start getting closer to the Bitcoin halving, we'll see that next year, early 2024. Then we could start being, more and more confident as we're getting closer to that.
Yeah.
That the bottom's been in. So
because obviously if you have a Lehman Brothers event, a black swan in the legacy world happen here, that could suck out a lot of liquidity in the crypto ecosystem. I mean, so we don't know, right? The government's still trying to break things. They're still sucking liquidity out. They're still raising interest rates. So we just don't know. But man, it's telling a different story.
Yes, agreed. Now, let me pull up. All right. Let me find it over here. Okay. So here's the hex chart over on Nomics. These guys do a good job of sharing information. And I think I'm seeing a lot on like Twitter. In fact, we see it with some of our group calls. I was talking with one of our members the other day, and he was feeling like he maybe had missed out because, he missed the hex bottom. He's been waiting. And we talked I have talked a lot with him, and I've talked about dollar cost averaging and the importance. And he's been pretty steadfast and like, no, I think that Bitcoin is for sure going to hit 11K. And I don't want to do anything until we reach that bottom. I was like, look, you do you.
No.
And so we were talking the other day, in fact, at the conference that you and I went to, and I'm like, look, man, today's a great day. Hex has been running. And he's like, maybe I'll take my money and put it into some other places, then maybe in stocks or real estate. And I was like, no, like, I'm not saying you haven't missed the opportunity. In fact, Hex is only up, just essentially a little more than its first double from the local bottom. I was like, look, you haven't missed it by a mile. Like you're still in it. You're still in the fight. Like, but it's very important to consider. Now, once again, we're just two guys on the internet and we don't know for sure what's going to happen.
Not financial advisors.
Yeah, but it's important to consider maybe getting some exposure in the event that you're wrong to be able to start dollar cost averaging in. And you can figure out how heavy to do that, over what time frame, all those types of things. But gosh, the closer that we're getting to freaking Pulse Chain launch, I mean, I'm having a harder and harder time seeing and feeling like Hex is going to go a lot lower than what we've seen more recently. In fact, let me push this out.
100%. You just touched on something there. Even if we saw the economy take another crash because of a black swan event, or Bitcoin, going down and doing a, wick to 11K, we're having our own little ecosystem bull run with Richard Hart and his announcements. And if V3 launches, we're going to see a bull run in Hex, even if the other markets are trending downward. So there's something to take in consideration, is that we're having a little bit of our own cycle in our ecosystem that is not correlated to the macro events. I would tell you, if Pulse Chain launches, I don't care if there's a Lehman Brothers event going on in the economy and it's just getting wrecked. If Pulse Chain launched in the middle of that, those assets will pump.
Right. Agreed. And I think it's really important. We've talked about this a number of times on the show, but anytime you're feeling really confident that a particular thing is going to happen, I think it's important to check that thought process, because there are no guarantees that any particular thing is going to happen.
And play a card from the other side. Yeah. Check your ego. Go, okay, I think I know what this is, how it's going to play. But let me play this other side just a little bit, just in case I'm wrong.
Right. Exactly. Let's go into the comments. We've got some of these guys have jokes. Never trust a streamer with the false Bitcoin shirt.
Yeah, maybe.
for a launch already. Amen. I couldn't be more freaking ready. We've had so much time to prepare. And in fact, it's fascinating that with all of this time to prepare, we've talked about this too. I think a lot of the narratives that people have pushed that were probably really good narratives at the beginning, I don't know if they're necessarily going to be so good anymore, since they appear to be very well adopted. And in fact, I was watching this morning, your friend Sami, dude, is absolute fire. If you guys haven't checked out his channel, go check it out. I've been working to try to get the guy on here. So if you have any influence there, feel free to tag him. We'd love to have him on over here. But he was talking and he said in all of his time in crypto, he's never once seen something work out in a way when 90% of the crowd was saying that it was going to happen a certain way. And I think that's very intriguing to be able to look at a lot of the narratives surrounding Pulse Chain and Pulse Chain launch. And once again, we talked about it on the show, but anytime the herd is going one direction, often many of them are left disappointed because things don't go that way.
100% correct.
Yeah. Ruben says, stoked and learning every day. Awesome, Ruben. We appreciate you having you tune in. Claus is on. He says, hi. Red Squirrel. Damn right, you never know. I started my DCA a couple of months ago. Will probably continue all year.
Oh, what a perfect DCA strategy. Starting a couple months ago, you caught that down that dip, and then now, yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, I like it. Francis is on. What's up, Francis? Appreciate you tuning in. Jeremy makes a great point. I like what Randy Hilarski says too. I still don't think we're out of the woods yet. And yep. I would agree. Once again, until we're getting a lot closer to the Bitcoin halving, in my opinion, we're far from out of the woods. Or frankly, like Richard saying the bottom's in. I feel really confident if he came out and said that was the case. And I think, frankly, like if you're Richard, and once again, we're just speculating. I don't know what Richard's thinking, but man, like I think that it could make a lot of sense to launch on the back of some of these big green candles with Bitcoin and Ethereum. People are starting to feel bullish again. They feel like the market's heading the right direction. They're not real anxious to sell their tokens. If you launch in an environment like that, do you get more people to hold, and do you mitigate sell pressure on Pulse Chain and PulseX and Hex? I think there's a reasonable thought process to consider there. Once again, your friend Sami, I saw that on one of his streams recently, and I thought it was interesting. So credit where credit is due. Pulse Chain launch could completely decouple Hex from the rest of the market.
Agreed.
Absolutely, it could. In fact, there are a number of people speculating that we could see Hex as high as 8 cents, clear up to 20 cents. I've seen a lot of speculation in there. B Roots is saying even as high as the all-time high of I think he's saying like 56 cents.
I think it could do that when Mainnet launches. When Mainnet gets announced, I think you can maybe see an all-time high. Yeah. Maybe that's. I don't know about B3 though. B3, my speculation is
B3. I don't think.
Yeah,
so.
I think we could get a 3x from here, maybe a 4x if we're really lucky. That's my speculation, but I'd be surprised on a 4x. I'd be surprised, but Mainnet, yeah, because if he came out and announce a block height of the fork, man, that would drive a lot of FOMO, I believe, in the market.
Do you think he'll announce a specific block height?
He kind of needs to for all the validators can get ready to turn on and switch over from testnet to mainnet. They need to know the block height and need to know when they need to start spinning up the nodes, unless he has his own data center, and it has to be a pretty massive sized data center to spin up all the validators to support the network before launch. So I believe he doesn't have that a whole entire data center to support the whole entire network, so he can just kind of surprise us with it. Then he's gonna announce a block height for also to people can shift their liquidity around, because he's been he tells people that you're gonna want to remove your liquidity before the fork, because that part is not going to be copied necessarily. So you would want to move the liquidity or readjust. So I think there's that too.
Do you think he wants to help people though? Do you think he wants to help people readjust, or does
I
he
think
want
I think in my opinion, I think he'll do a block hype, maybe like a 48-hour notice.
That'll be interesting to see.
It's enough time where you're not incentivizing the traders to get in there, and you would incentivize people to buy. I don't know. It's interesting, but there has to be a block hype for the validators at the very least.
And like you said, unless he has enough validators and feels confident in their own little, within his team that they could go and launch. And then because like moving over to switch over, in fact, you've been digging into this more. So if you're a validator on testnet version 3, and let's say that, just speculate with me, let's say that Richard feels like within his team they have enough validators to go ahead and launch and surprise people, to make it so that people are less likely to game the system. If you've got a validator on testnet version 3, I mean, it wouldn't take that much additional time or work to switch over to mainnet, would it?
It wouldn't. All you'd have to do is switch the clients over and resync the Aragon client. The Aragon's really quick. You can sync it up within a couple of days. Where if you're syncing up Prism, that could be a week. But yeah, so Prism and Lighthouse are the consensus. Aragon and Geth. I'm sorry. So Geth can take up to 2 weeks to sync, where Aragon's only a couple of days because it has a checkpoint nodes that it can sync up from. So if you're running Aragon, and you need both though, but somebody who's running Aragon can sync up within a couple of days and get their validator switched over and validate blocks fairly quick. That's my plan. I'm doing Prism for the consensus, and I'm going to do Aragon for the execution. They both are in Golang, so they both can communicate very well together. I feel like it's a good combination. And then, like I said, Aragon, I like the idea of being able to sync up much quicker. When Richard Hart says it's go time, I want to be able to go. Like I'm going to be excited when he says it's go time, and I want to switch that bad boy over. So
I like it. Cool. So this is an interesting topic. In fact, I'd like to talk about this a little bit more. So once we hit the bull properly, are you really going to care if you bought at 5 cents or 3 cents? The other option is the risk missing it completely.
Exactly.
I agree. And you certainly don't want to miss. That being said, 3 cents and 5 cents is a massive difference. It's almost a double. And so, I mean, depending upon how much economic energy you had to put in at either of those levels, I mean, that literally could be the difference between, $1 million and 2 million, or 5 million and 10 million, or 10 million and 20 million. Like, the difference could be enormous. But like Red Squirrel says, do you want to take the risk that you're missing? And thus the strategy of dollar cost averaging in, you
always wins. Yeah, because even if you're talking about, okay, it could be a difference between maybe 3 million and 2 million, or 3 million and 1.5 million, right? Like, at least you dollar cost in at the 1.5 million. What if Hex goes to 10 cents and doesn't return back? Like, and I think it will personally, but that's not financial advice. But you don't know, right? We just don't know. And so that's why you always want to DCA, have a bag put on the side for your long-term hodl, and continue DCA. And even if you were going to do some buy the rumor, sell the news, it's just smart, because I don't know if we will. I'm not sure if we'll see another 1.7. We absolutely could, but we don't know, right? And that's the thing we got to admit to ourselves. But to Red Squirrel's point, yeah, keep DCAing even in this 5 cent range. Why not? If you have some dry powder and that's what your intent was to DCA through all 2023, keep DCAing.
Right. I like it. Andre says, needed to come now. Small investor from South Africa. We are with you. We're pumped for the launch. I would heavily recommend, in fact, we talked about this with a number of our members in our group, where they're like, gosh, we really needed to launch so we could start getting the passive income, or so we could sell and do some different things. I couldn't recommend more strongly that this is the year to double down on whatever you're doing to make money outside of crypto. double down on that, get a second job, work your brains out, go drive Uber, whatever it takes, because dollar cost averaging this year, once again, not financial advice, in my opinion, this is the year to really set yourself up for the crypto bull run. Period. End of the day. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, like Corey said earlier. And if it rhymes again, this is the year to be building those positions to really see parabolic growth on those positions going into 2025.
100%. And don't try to time bottoms, and you don't try to time tops, and you just DCA all the way through 2023, and you're going to be in good shape. So
Agreed. I think people think it's going to be a buy the rumor, sell the news event. A lot of people will get wrecked, especially since Hex liquidity is so low. Anything can happen, of course. We think the same thing. In fact, if you were to consider participating in a buy the rumor, sell the news, you'd want to make sure that you try to front run everybody, where you're selling early. You couldn't sell right before Pulse Chain or right after. I don't think, and I could be wrong, but if it's a typical buy the rumor, sell the news event, you need to consider front running the Pulse Chain launch and taking some profits there. But I think I think it's pretty likely that Ethereum or Hex on Ethereum, the price just gets demolished. Now, of course, it'll depend on how high it rides before Pulse Chain launch to see how far it could come down. But back to the idea of doing the opposite of what the rest of the crowd is doing, that might be a really unique opportunity to be able to go scoop some of that up if you feel like it's likely that Richard Heart bonds Hex on the two chains, and we see, some sort of parity. And in fact, once again, your friend Sami just has a ton of freaking good content. I've been feeling really strongly. Corey, you and I have talked about this a lot on the show and outside of it. Been feeling really strongly that Hex on Ethereum could lag pretty significantly, and in fact, just not perform that well over this next cycle. And your friend Sami made a great point where he was saying, do you think that Richard wants the price chart for Hex on Ethereum to look terrible and all of his haters be they're tagging him on Twitter and posting the chart and saying, oh, Richard left his baby behind? I mean, the guy's ego is one thing that we can bet on.
Yeah, we can.
And the guy wants to see 4 good price charts. Yeah. And so it's interesting to consider as part of your strategy when you're.
I definitely believe that he cares about eHex a lot more than like the POW Hex or Fair Hex. Like, he's not even talked about POW or Fair, and he's never ever talked about it, but he's made many references to the eHex and PHEX that he doesn't want to see either one of those cheap. He has referenced that many times in his streams. He's never talked about the POW or Fair. So even though we can, well, let's look over there and see what happened. Well, you can use it as one reference, but take it with a grain of salt. That's it. Do not use that as your only point of reference. Once again, you got to take down the ego and go, I don't know.
Yes, agreed. Doc Lover says, hi, team. Folks need to also factor in short-term speculators when imagining short-term price predictions, as there will be traders who couldn't care less about Hex.
Yep, there will be traders participating. 100%. And they won't care. They don't have any long-term hodl strategies. They're just trying to get in there and make a quick dollar, and that's fine. Let them do it. I mean, that's crypto's about that, and we can use that to our advantage. We can.
Right. Agreed. Yeah, gas prices when Richard gives the notice for Pulse Chain launch.
Oh gosh, I didn't even think about that. Oh gosh, yeah, he's right. Gas is going to be crazy. Gwei's going to shoot to the roof. Gwei was crazy the last couple days, man.
Oh, gosh, what a freaking joke. We're in the freaking bear market, and there's been, I did a swap. I wanted to buy Hex at about 3 cents when the price was moving. I scooped up a bunch. It cost me $40 in gas to do the swap, but I wanted the price, so I did it. And man, we're in the bear market. I can't imagine what gas fees are going to be. Seriously, can you imagine there were transactions that people were paying hundreds of dollars to do in the last bull run. Can you imagine what they'll be like if Ethereum gets closer to $10,000 in this next run?
Oh,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
Good luck with your Zen mints.
Oh, good luck. Yeah. Good luck with your hex stakes that are not larger amounts. I mean,
Oh, that too. But at least if you guys got your hex stakes in before the fork, at least you're getting the copy. Imagine trying to do e-hex stakes after the fork. Ugh. And if
yeah,
they're small, you wouldn't do them if they're small.
no.
There's no purpose whatsoever. At least right now we can use a narrative. Yeah, we will get a copy. But man, after the fork, just brutal. And
Brutal.
Ethereum will get their act together. I do not buy into the narrative that gas fees will be expensive in 15 years. Even though I don't believe in 15-year stakes necessarily, like, if you do want to do them, okay, but make them HSIs. I like market cycle stakes. I do have 15-year stakes, but I also believe that 15 years, Ethereum will have their act together. They have sharding on the roadmap. It's coming. I'm deep inside that that learning part now of all about how Ethereum works, how the clients work, the roadmaps, what's going to happen in the future, the Shanghai merge, I think it's EIP 8555 or EIP 6555. That's the sharding merge, and so it's going to happen. And when that happens, the gas fees are going to get incredibly cheaper. The scalability of the chain and the roll-ups that'll be happening on the chain, it's going to get incredibly cheap to do transactions. So Ethereum can be that $20,000 per coin, and we can have very cheap transactions. But I don't think the sharding is going to happen by the next bull run. It's very unlikely.
I don't either. Yeah.
It'll probably happen in the next bear market because remember that's the perfect time for building. That's
Right.
it. Like, right, we'll see the Shanghai happen in this bear market, and then we're gonna have the bull run. It's gonna be everything we were anticipating it to be. And you're right, we'll probably hit 10,000, and gas fees will be $500 a transaction. It'll be an absolute nightmare. And then the bear market will come in 26, and that's probably when we're gonna see that sharding merge happen. That's my anticipation. That's my speculation. So
I like it. I like it. FOMO-phobic. I love the name. I did not get in on the PLS actually. I swapped some of my PLSX for PLS or just stand fast. Man, I think it's going to be pretty gnarly to get in there and see. And one of the things I'm really excited for, so pay attention when V3 launches. When it launches, I'm going to be in there as fast as humanly possible because I want to see what the ratios are like. I want to see how those pan out. I want to see what PLS versus PLSX is, because theoretically that should give us a really good idea of what the ratios may be like when mainnet launches. And so I would say exercise a lot of caution when considering swapping your PLSX for PLS. I mean, seriously, I think it's pretty. I think there's a pretty decent chance that it's going to take 5 PLSX for every PLS, maybe 8, maybe 10. I think the ratio is going to be just terrible. And if you're betting on, I mean, so if you do a 10-to-1 swap, 10 PLSX for 1 PLS, you're making the bet that PLS is going to outperform PLSX by 10-fold, by 10x. That's not a bet that I'm real comfortable making. So long story short, it'll depend on the ratios, but I would say exercise a lot of caution. I'm personally not planning to do that with any of my PulseX, and I miss the PLS SAC as well. I'm not planning on swapping any of mine. Once again, unless the ratio is pretty freaking close to 1-to-1, I don't plan on doing that.
Same here. And if there is a ratio of 1-to-1, which it could be right at the
very beginning,
it ain't gonna last very long. So maybe if you can get in there and get a little bit in the very beginning, maybe you get lucky. But I would say the answer to this 98% no. I won't be swapping any of my PulseX for Pulse. I have another play that I'll be doing that I'm very interested in, and that's swapping the P-Hex. And all you guys who are on here are very lucky to hear we're going to go against the narrative because everyone's also saying, hold your Hex through the fork. use your P hex to swap into Pulse. Okay, well, please do that. I'm going to be going against you, and I already think P hex will open up at a 0.002 cost basis, because if I do the ratio, if I dilute Ethereum 1,000,000 to 1, and I take that ratio of what Hex is right now to Ethereum, that ends up being about a 0.002 cost basis off of my SAC, the normal SAC price that we have against Pulse and Pulse X. And so that's amazing. And if people are going to be doing that swap and driving that 0.002 cost basis down, what is it going to go to? 0.001, 0.309, 0.308? Well, guess what? I'm a buyer, and I'm going in, and I'm grabbing that PS, because I know, and I'm not financial advice. This is me knowing. This is speculation still, but when that bridge comes in, man, that Hexican community is going to come in and start buying up PHEX. It's going to be, there'll be FOMO, and you can reverse that swap.
I think it'll be big.
You can reverse that swap and get your Pulse X back, or your Pulse that you swapped into that PHEX. You can get it back, and then maybe have a leftover nice size PHEX bag. Oh, it's going to be juicy.
Yes, agreed. What do you guys think of Hedron and Icosa? I'm bullish.
Love it.
We like Hedron and Icosa.
I got a lot of each.
We do. We have a lot. One thing that I've been thinking about this a lot with Hedron. Typically, when a token does a large there's a large free claim, that tends to be very negative for price performance. And in fact, you see it with like Steph from the Staker app. He's a constant Hedron seller.
Yeah.
We're big fans, but I am interested to see how they play out long term. So far, so good. They're cranking. The yield is bonkers, especially for this first year where Alex, the founder of Hedron and Icosa, burned a bunch of Hedron that created an influx of yield for the first year for everyone that's participating. So the real question that I have for that ecosystem is, how is it going to perform after the first year when there's not this injection of a huge Hedron burn? It's going to be interesting to see, but we hold pretty large positions and we like it. Pretty excited.
Yep. Agreed.
Yep. Jeremy, Icosa are a secret hidden gem. Absolutely. And in fact, the hope is that as we're heading into the next bull run, that we don't necessarily need the big injection of Hedron burn from Alex, but the bull run can really take hold and push price, and more people participate in the HSI auctions, and you see more Hedron burn there.
I think we got a good shot.
Is nice.
Yeah, I think we got a good chance for that happening, because right now Alex is basically seed liquidity. It's a seed liquidity to keep it afloat, if you will, until you see a lot of liquidity coming back into the marketplace, and which will be, probably lines up perfectly for when the seed liquidity runs dry.
It's a great point, because we're about 6 months deep into, a little bit over 6 months into Icosa being around. And so we've got another 6 months. Yeah, that would
it's actually another 8 months, because he did a second round of seed liquidity about 3 months into the protocol.
That's a good point. So what is that? So 8 more months plus February. So July, August. So that put us into September, right?
Yeah, man, that's leading right into where the FOMO could be at, knowing that the Bitcoin halving's happening. I mean, maybe it runs dry a little bit on the yield for a couple months, and then it really starts to pick up after the beginning of the year. I mean, hard to say, all speculation.
Yeah, but I also like those because it's a way to participate in Hex, and also like a potentially larger upside play than having Hex. Icosa has better yield than Hex by a mile right now, and Hedron has potentially better price appreciation upside.
Yeah.
And we'll tell if that plays out, but I like that it's a little bit of a levered play on Hex with potential larger upside. So we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah. Pulse Chain ecosystem is insane. It will be a complete product right off the bat. Once the actual product is out, it will be very hard to ignore. We agree. There's a lot of news of the giant, I believe they're a Chinese exchange, OKX, listing Pulse Chain right out of the gate so their users could on-ramp directly into the asset. And if you keep liquidity relatively thin, the USDC Pulse liquidity are relatively thin there. I mean, a direct on-ramp, price up. I mean, it could be crazy.
Yeah.
Be crazy. And that's where, back to the question of swapping PulseX for Pulse, I mean, it's a pretty strong narrative, people thinking that Pulse Chain will take off and PulseX will dip and lag. I think that I'm having a hard time seeing that not be the case. Now, once again, this is subject to change, but Richard Hart doesn't hardly ever talk about PulseX. He hasn't in months. But he talks about Pulse Chain, and that's where all of the eyes are. I think you see a hard pump in Pulse Chain, and that's where you could really shoot yourself in the foot if you're swapping your PulseX.
Yes.
And you have a really bad ratio. I mean, that's scary. Cool. Also, folks seem to be discounting the Hex derivatives tokens during the run-up to the announcement of V3 and mainnet. Some folks will also be playing short-term games with those instead. I agree. The one issue here is the liquidity in the derivatives is way more thin than that of Hex. And so if you're going to try to play some games, the derivatives may not be the play because of the liquidity being so thin. So,
or do it very low amounts, very little amounts. Yeah.
If Bitcoin goes to 11K, how low do you think Hex will go? Below 3 cents?
That depends on, do we have V3? Do we have mainnet? Are we still waiting? Like, is Richard say, hey, 2 more weeks? Like, because our ecosystem is so dependent on Pulse Chain right now, it depends on what's going on with that. But yeah, it could. I mean, if Richard's like, oh, it's a couple more months for V3, and then we see Bitcoin hit down 11K, maybe we get a second opportunity of that below 3 cent Hex. I mean, anything's possible.
Yeah, anything's possible. And to shout out to Jake Sharp. Jake keeps I've seen a number of his videos where he's saying that right now TA just doesn't apply to Hex because it's so driven by the narrative of Pulse Chain launch and people wanting to get their free copies. That, man, like I tend to think that if Bitcoin were to retrace to 11K, I have a hard time seeing Hex hit as hard as maybe it would have been in November, because I know there's a lot of energy, right, and people getting excited about Pulse Chain and wanting to get their copy. So I don't think it would dip as hard as it would have if that would have happened in November. But I don't know, and I'm getting more and more to a place where I think, man, I'm feeling like the bottom there's a decent likelihood that we've seen the bottom in already. Time will tell. It'll be fast.
It's the only way we'll know. We'll look, like a year from now, we'll look back and go, oh, damn, that was the bottom.
Right.
It's the only way you know. You got to time travel.
Either that or wishing that you had more dry powder if we retrace really hard. It'll be fascinating to see. Right.
That's true.
But I have deployed almost all of my dry powder. Previously, I've been dollar cost averaging in to Hex and some other derivatives and sacrifices and things that we like. And I
think you're in good shape. If you've got like 90% of your dry powder or whatever it is, and you're holding, obviously you want a little bit on the side because we don't know the future. But yeah, if you've been DCAing this whole time, especially in the last few months, I think you're in good shape.
Yeah, I like those odds a lot. And especially, I mean, because how much further, let's say that let's say you bought today, right, at 5.5 cents. Let's say that Hex retraces to a penny. I mean, to Red Squirrel's point, now that could hurt, and I get the idea, but I think the likelihood of getting left behind at this point is greater than the likelihood of Hex to a penny, like a lot of people have called for previously.
This is correct.
And so I've just played the probability. That's how I feel about it. I could be wrong. and you've got to determine how you feel about it, how you want to play your cards.
Just how the Bulls were calling Hex to go to $1, you have the Bears calling Hex to a penny. It's the same scenario. You know,
That's a good point. I like that.
When everyone thinks it's going to hit that range, it usually doesn't. We hit 1.7. What else do you guys want? The Bears, I mean. What do you want, Bears? You got 1.7.
Right. And right. Yep. That's an excellent point. We are about to a place where we need to wrap it up. Let's do one last question here. Also focusing, oh wait, we did that already. Okay. Could the arrival of V3 and later mainnet lead to the death of Hex on Ethereum Fair and Ethereum POW? I've just left my copies on both, but I'm starting to think when to cash these in. I mean, I frankly, I haven't been really paying attention over there other than the occasional updates on Twitter, because the pricing over there is just so low that, like, unless you hold massive bags, you're just not going to be able to extract much value out over there. If you have a different opinion, Corey, or feel differently,
no, I really don't. I'm just leaving my stuff over there. I even went and did because I had a stake come due not a couple of weeks ago. I even went in there and unstaked it on there. It costs almost nothing to do because you're paying the gas on that chain. So I'm still treating it as such that because I don't know what the future might lie for that chain. Maybe what if POW does take off in the next bull run for some reason? We don't know, right? Like, and so like for me, it's not enough to extract value out. I'm going to get a few $100s if I try to get rid of all my Hex. I don't know. It's like it doesn't make sense for me to try to get the value out of there now in this bear market to see if and to add it into my the mainnet. I'd rather just let it sit. I'll cater to my stakes, unstake them when they come due, maybe restaked again. But I'm not going to add any new economic energy in there, and I probably won't pull anything out. That's just
that's pretty well how I'm playing mine too. Last comment: whichever RH Coins dumps, buy it. You want to buy what's cheap. And so you've got to determine your strategy. There's a lot of FOMO, people going to be going in. It's dangerous to go into places where everybody's trying to get into. And so just be cautious out there. We'll be putting out a ton of content when V3 launches to show you guys how to do all the ins and outs of all the things you're going to need to know over there. Tune in tomorrow. We have one of our real estate buddies on, multimillionaire, done how much money did Berto say to raise? I think it's like 100 million or something like that. So this dude is the real deal. He's been in the real estate game for over 20 years. He's going to be talking about how to find the right operators to align with if you want to consider real estate as part of your strategy. Once again, we feel like it pairs beautifully with crypto. Now, I'm not buying any real estate, neither is Corey, and we're not considering it until 2025, 2026. But gosh, I think it's incredibly important to start figuring out your plan now. So make sure to tune in tomorrow. We're really excited about that. If you want to come and chat about our group, see what it looks like there, see if we can help you with some of your strategy to be able to preserve your wealth, preserve your crypto gains, offset some of your taxes, make sure to follow the link here at the bottom to schedule a call. Once again, we are very selective about who we let into the group because we want to maintain a very high level of status and individuals in there. The group has well over, tens of millions of dollars in net worth across everybody. I'm sure it's getting closer to 100 million. And we feel really proud of what we're building there. So love to chat with you guys. Otherwise, tune in tomorrow and we'll see you there.
See you guys.